Hey guys, Scripted here with another video, and I wanted to talk about Lawrence Kasdan today. Somebody reposted this on Reddit. This is from a book called Noise, in which the book is about, it's an argument about the unwanted variability in human judgments. Okay, and so in this particular portion of the book, they're talking about Star Wars and George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan and a disagreement that they had. And so I wanted to talk about this because this is super duper interesting. Conclusion biases. At a key moment in the development of the screenplay for Return of the Jedi, the third Star Wars film, George Lucas, the mastermind behind the series, had a heated debate with his great collaborator Lawrence Kasdan. It's important that they put in heated, because Kasdan was very, very passionate about this. As fans of Star Wars, you let me know in the comment section what you think, but listen to what he wanted to have done. Heated debate with his great collaborator, Lawrence Kasdan. Kasdan strongly advised Lucas, "I think you should kill Luke and have Leia take over." Okay, guys, so what do you guys think about this? That's pretty crazy to think about if they had actually killed Luke off in Return of the Jedi. I don't think the movie would have even been called Return of the Jedi had they done that. And at the same time, had they done that, how would you then have a face-off with the Emperor? I mean, is Leia going to just figure out the Force in that one movie or in the first half or something like that? Would it have been a Rey situation with Leia at that point? And the reason I bring that up is because there's other things about Kasdan in the Disney era that are very important to this particular chapter of this book, which is very interesting that I was looking up this morning. That's why I wanted to do a video about this. And have Leia take over. How would that even work? It wouldn't work. The only way it would work is if she becomes a Mary Sue like Rey and just knows everything instantly. Lucas promptly rejected the idea. Kasdan suggested that if Luke lived, another major character should die. Lucas again disagreed, adding, "You don't go around killing people." Kasdan responded with a heartfelt claim about the nature of cinema, and he explained to Lucas that the movie has more emotional weight if someone you love is lost along the way. The journey has more impact. Yes and no, though, because if you love Luke Skywalker as a character and he gets killed off, there has to be somebody else to fill that void at that point, especially by the third film. You would have to have somebody established. Now, Han, kinda, not really. He's a different kind of character. He's the swashbuckling, he's the funny uncle, I don't think he replaced him. I definitely don't think Leia could replace him at that point because she just wasn't at that point. Fun characters, wouldn't have necessarily been a horrible movie, but it might have been by doing that. So I'm with Lucas on this one for sure. Lucas's response was quick and unequivocal. I don't like that, and I don't believe that. The thought process here looks quite different from the one you experienced when you thought about Bill, the jazz-playing accountant. Read Lucas's answer again. Not liking precedes not believing. That's right. Lucas had an automatic response to Kasdan's suggestion. That response helped motivate his judgment. In other words, there was absolutely no way this was going to happen. And I'm glad it didn't. Kasdan can have all the credit in the world for co-writing Empire, all that stuff. But thank goodness you have somebody overseeing everything. And he said, we ain't doing that stupidness. Now I come to the crux of the matter with Kasdan. Because, so Kasdan he did a lot of movies, right? He did Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was a co-writer for Empire. He co-wrote a shooting script with Lucas for Return of the Jedi. In 1981, Kasdan surmised that they'll probably shoot the Before Luke trilogy next, about young Darth and young Ben. But with George, you can't be sure. For myself, I can only say this will be my last Star Wars movie. On the other hand, you never know. That's important, actually. At the time, he was done. He was done with Star Wars. Lucas constantly approached Kasdan to help him write them, the prequels, but Kasdan resisted returning to the franchise, opining that Lucas should do the prequels as he wished, given the creative clashes Lucas had with him, Kirshner and Richard Marquand during that original trilogy development. But Lucas thought it would be great for Kasdan to take a second pass at the screenplays. But he never did. He did not do the prequels. And I don't know if he needed money or what, but he got into the sequels all those years later. As it comes to, when Disney bought Lucasfilm with the plans to make Star Wars films, Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm's new president, asked Kasdan to be involved. I said, I don't really want to. I just feel like I've done this, he recalled. They said, we want to do a movie about Han. And he said, that got me. That was the only one that could possibly have gotten me. I really think he thought that Han could replace Luke in Return of the Jedi in terms of the audience, in terms of how we would have seen things. But that wouldn't have worked. Han wasn't Force sensitive or anything. It just wouldn't have worked. The other thing about this, too, is he said he didn't want to. He didn't want to do another Star Wars movie. And I don't think it's ever a good idea to hire a reluctant writer. Right? A reluctant writer is probably not going to do the best job because they're not super excited about it. And it's funny to me that he says he got back in because they were going to make it about Han. But Han sucked in The Force Awakens. He wasn't even Han. Like, if he was all infatuated with Han's character, and we'll see further here that he was very infatuated with Han's character, why would he have written him the way he did in The Force Awakens? He was awful. Like, I don't understand this whole thing. But it kind of relates to his idea that Leia could replace Luke. Because if you think about it, like, Rey took all the spotlight from everybody, and Han maybe especially, like with the Falcon and her knowledge of it, and he was just sort of seemed like this tired old man, and she's kind of dragging him around. It kind of felt like that, and like I was saying earlier, to make Leia replace Luke, you would have kind of had to have gone that route of like she just becomes everything out of nowhere with no real backstory for it. There just wasn't enough time for her to become like that. So Kennedy had hired Michael Arndt to write episode 7, and she asked Kasdan if he would consult on that script as well. He always felt that Han Solo is really the character find irresistible, not Luke. Why can't it be both? Why can't there be people that really like Han's character and then other people that really like Luke's character? Like, they both have a huge role. I think kids that were watching the original trilogy probably geared more towards Luke, and young adult guys especially, and even maybe older guys, probably would have related more to Han, right? Because he's kind of like, again, that funny uncle, like the guy who's always kind of has a funny comment to make and stuff. So I think you need both for it to be successful. Again, it's always all or nothing, I find, with a lot of people. And Kasdan's striking me as that type of a guy. Again, especially, think about how he wrote Rey. It's all or nothing. Luke is too good for people to invest in. Han is right out of the classic mold. He's William Holden, he's Jimmy Cagney, he's Humphrey Bogart. Han is the one who is Han is the one who's compromised and reluctantly forced to be altruistic and heroic. He had wanted to kill Han off in Return of the Jedi. We're closing off the trilogy, and he said, and we want to lose somebody important. It would give some stakes to this thing. And George did not like it. Okay, so he obviously said, if you're not going to kill Luke off, kill Han off. Kill somebody off. I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad that never happened. I don't mind Han dying, but I like that he didn't die in Return of the Jedi, and I certainly wish that he had gone out better than he did in The Force Awakens, that's for sure. So The Force Awakens comes out, makes a whole pile of money. One notably feels the hand of Lawrence Kasdan, who co-wrote Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and perhaps more significantly authored Raiders of the Lost Ark. The film this new one most resembles in terms of its incident and exuberance on The Force Awakens. Okay, so think about that. Like, think about if he had been allowed to just kind of do what he wanted without George telling him no. That would have been awful. And again, the whole, like, Han's terrible in The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens, Raise Mary Sue, terrible. Absolutely terrible. And again, he was reluctant. You never do that. Don't hire someone who's reluctant. It's going to end up being bad. Kasdan wrote the screenplay for a Han Solo original story, the one assignment with Disney and Lucasfilm he initially signed on for, with his son John. The younger Kasdan had had small roles in his father's movies since The Big Chill, but they had never written a script together. So he wrote Solo. And so again, this is the whole thing. Like, so his whole, like, Han Solo's the best, and he's this and he's that. And it's like, so you're holding Han Solo up on this pedestal. Okay, fine, great. Like, he's a really cool character, no problem. But then you make his origin story, like how he was named, it was some random Imperial officer. That's what you came up with for this character that you apparently just love. Again, I think a guy like this, here's what I'll say. For all of the talk that even I have done and many others have done about how actors and producers and people with Lucas helped rein him in on some stuff in the OT, less so certainly in the prequels, he also reined in some of these guys, right? Like, think about what Kasdan's done in Star Wars outside of George Lucas's Lucasfilm. Like, both of those movies suck. I mean, look at Solo. Like, droid, weird feminist droid stuff, and Lando being kind of weird with his droid, and that's what you came up with, Lawrence? So, you know, I think in the OT you had that perfect mixture of people that were all kind of reining each other in. And I think it's funny, you know, Solo, and then, you know, to a lesser extent, The Force Awakens and Kasdan, and when it's more up to him, you start to see where he would have taken things, and he would have killed Luke, which is so crazy to me. You kill off your main character in the third film? What are you doing? What are you thinking with that? That would have been so stupid. Kasdan later attributed Solo's underperformance to Lucasfilm blowing it, after which he left the Star Wars universe as promised, not responding to any of Lucasfilm's subsequent attempts to woo him back, even sending with him a messenger with a new script. Well, but, you know, you were involved in The Force Awakens, okay, and you set up a situation where I'm not taking anything away from Rian Johnson screwing everything up, but Rian Johnson had to figure out a way to explain Rey being a Mary Sue if Episode 8 was going to be any good, which Kasdan helped set up that setup with Rey being a Mary Sue. So that wouldn't have been an easy thing to do. It would have been very difficult to make an interesting Episode 8 when you had to spend the first half of it trying to get the audience to believe why she's so powerful. And in the end, he just didn't bother. He just left it. He didn't explain it at all, which was horrible as well. But you gotta, you know, for all the hate of The Last Jedi, it starts with The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens sets the tone for the whole thing, especially when it comes to Rey. And he's partially responsible for that. So him blaming Lucasfilm for Solo failing. Solo also wasn't that great of a movie. They also cast a guy who didn't really look like him. They had two other really good options that looked exactly like him, and they were fairly decent actors. You know, and all the problems they had on set is always, at least to some percentage, attributed to the writing. It might have only been 5%. You know, it might have been mostly something else, but there is a certain percentage of the problems stemmed from the writing. So he needs to take a little bit of maybe self-reflect a little bit on that, and also the fact that he was going to kill off Luke in Return of the Jedi, or wanted to, is really dumb. And I'm not saying that Kasdan didn't have anything to offer, that it was a waste. Obviously, he was there in the OT, and everyone involved should be appreciated, because it's a great trilogy. But I just thought this was crazy, and then the more I looked into it and saw the connections between, you know, the moving off to Leia, and then the way they handled Rey, and his kind of mentality. Basically, what I've been doing lately is looking into things a little more deeply rather than just bashing Kathleen Kennedy. There are other people involved in these projects that are screwing them up. It's not just her. And so, yeah, let me know in the comment section what you think about this whole thing with Kasdan and Luke and killing him off, or killing Han off, and how he did it, and how The Force Awakens was written, and everything else. And what the heck could they have possibly done in Jedi if they had killed Luke off? What kind of an ending would that have been? Anyways, let me know in the comment section if you like this content. Please like and subscribe. Always helps the channel. Feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.